Hey everyone, welcome to the Tom's Hardware Podcast for January 16th, 2024. As always, I'm Tom's Hardware Editor-in-Chief, Abram Pilch, joined by Associate Editor Les Pounder, Raspberry Pi expert Ash Hill, and our very special guests, the Hacker Twins, Jeff and Mark Rosenberg, here to talk about some of their amazing robot projects. Welcome to the show, Jeff and Mark. Can you tell everyone a little bit about yourselves?
Yeah, so we're Hacker Twins. My name's Jeff.
I'm Mark.
And we do 3D printed robots, and we hack code, 3D printing, and software.
Yeah, by trade, I'm a software developer. It's like my current job, but getting into the hobbyist robotics space and hardware in general with got like all sorts of Arduinos, Raspberry Pis, and 3D printers. We started a YouTube channel, Hacker Twins, and I think we've been posting regularly every week for maybe like close to 5 or 6 months now. And we started like as small as you could, and are at this point right now.
Yeah. So these are tripedal. You might have seen some videos on them, and it's kind of why we're here. Posted on Reddit, and Ash reached out, and we're super happy to be here and talk about them.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what can you tell us about your tripedal robot?
Great. Tripedal is our first and only walking robot that we've ever developed. This is baby tripedal if you want to hold him up. He uses 7 servos. The outer legs are like traditional human legs somewhat, although because they're in line at 180 degrees, they pick up like chicken legs. If you know, chickens have opposite knees than humans, or it can swing like human legs. And he doesn't shuffle, he does pick up his legs. But what's unique about him is that the center leg is a linear knee that goes up and down. So it does swing and it does have an ankle, but the linear knee allows him to do tricky things that you wouldn't imagine, like obviously just picking yourself up and down without moving position. So what the real innovation of tripedal is, it's very easy to balance because you have a big heavy center leg to fall on. And it doesn't use a knee, it uses a linear knee. So maneuvering, you still have the center mass. And it just worked. It was very easy and it worked. And that's why we built a bigger one.
So how does it walk with 3 legs?
That's so one of, and I mentioned this in our YouTube videos because we do post weekly, but we do other projects as well. And there are videos of him walking if you go to hackertwins.com or our YouTube channel. He has 2 different walking methods I was alluding to earlier, the chicken one and the human one. The human one, he leads with the outer legs, and then he swings the foot forward. Or the chicken style walk where you're picking up your feet forward, lifting up with your outer legs and swinging around with the center leg. Yeah, but the real answer is he doesn't really have a true walking sequence yet. That's why we built a bigger one, because things like if you want to grab the Raspberry Pi, the reason why we're on the Picast, this guy, baby tripedal, is way too little for a big Raspberry Pi. And we even have the Raspberry Pi Zero. And that seems just form factor enough to hide in this rat's nest of wires. So what we need to do is come up with a better walking sequence. But those are the 2 methods.
Yeah. So did you guys just figure that out, or did you find something similar and kind of base the locomotion off of that, or what?
Human tractor. I mean, I guess maybe it kind of started early on when we were looking at like robots in general. Like there's the bipedal robots and the walking dog robots. And if you look at the differences or similarities here, like this is just a 3-legged one. So like we just kind of went for it.
Also, our first official project, not like 6 months ago when we started Hacker Twins, we did, because we grew up on a small farm in South Jersey, we had this idea of a human tractor exoskeleton project. And this is where the rack and pinion, just like the linear movement of a servo spinning like a flat straight gear, where we used on our human tractor, we built a bicep, an exoskeleton bicep. I just kept thinking to myself, there's got to be a way to make a leg out of this bicep. And it's our very first video if you want to find it on YouTube. But I just kept thinking there's got to be a way to like turn this into a leg, because we eventually want to do the full exoskeleton suit. And that's how we got the linear knee. and from there just seemed obvious because the outer arms, spoiler alert, one day the outer legs should also actually be arms. So that's why I get them mixed up. I call them arms and legs because it's somewhat like a chimp.
Yeah.
Nightmare crawling, walking.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's awesome. So why did you choose the Raspberry Pi as your as the brain for this robot?
Yeah, so what we want to do is offload a lot of the compute onto a desktop. We want to do SLAM or synchronized learning mapping. I missed the acronym, but what we want to do is we want to be able to use advanced visual detection systems like Ultralytics has YOLO version 5 or 8, which is really popular right now. And these things are really tricky to run on Raspberry Pi before like the Raspberry Pi 5 came out. And now that's up in the air. We don't have one yet. So
yeah, I think we're working on Raspberry Pi 3s. We just have like 5 or 6 of them. Originally, we used them for 3D printers and just had Octoprint on them.
And that's good use for it.
Yeah, and I built human detection systems with the Pi 4 using OpenCV.
But if you touch it, it still feels like your hand's going to melt. And we are just working with PLA. So definitely looking to find ways to just like stream video channel over IP and then have like a desktop computer sitting somewhere and, you know, just communicating with like RAWs or just over the network in general.
Yeah. And then obviously once we get walking patterns and algorithms fixed out, the Raspberry Pi will do an awesome job. We're basically exclusively Ubuntu guys because we, you know, rig together old laptops and just like many people do, just wipe it and put Ubuntu on there. So we're very familiar with it, and that's what we use for the Raspberry Pi as well. So that makes it really easy to just use Ubuntu server on there and git clone repos. Yeah.
Cool.
Very cool. How do you find the GPIO with Ubuntu on a Pi? Do you find it easy to use in the Raspberry Pi OS's GPIO, or do you prefer it? Or
we're just all terminal, right?
Well, I guess we haven't really done a whole lot of things with detection systems or any of those programs. I think literally all we've done is use like just
OpenCV. Yeah, we haven't.
Okay.
Yeah. We really haven't pulled off YOLO 8. What we really exclusively do, like we have done the human detection system, but it's just streaming video over the network, offloading all the difficult stuff to a computer. Just because we're not going to be able to do Raspberry Pi, and actually, if you want to talk about RAWs a bit, it's really the platform to use the robot operating system.
Yeah, I think one of the things we're working on for a while was trying to build our own like robot framework for how we wanted to communicate to things. We have one of our earlier projects, which might be plugged in or not. It's just this like a simple robot arm.
Okay,
and you know, just like we're still in the infancy of discovering like how we want to communicate to robots in general. So right now, like when it comes to using Raspberry Pi, it would probably just look like a thing that runs RAWs and can act as like nodes for particular things. Right now, just as simple as servos. But as we get more complex, like we'll just have walking sequences with RAWs, Raspberry Pi network, and go from there.
Very interesting.
That makes sense. So, what are some of the other things that you're working on besides your tripedal robot?
Yeah, our portfolio right now, the backlog has a lot of ideas, but on the portfolio, really, it's Desk Buddy right there, tripedal. We are currently working on a rover or four-wheeled, I guess, ATV, like mini car. I don't know what to, we're just going to call it a rover. And then we do have an ornithopter hiding around somewhere, but I don't think we grabbed it out of storage.
Yeah, our ornithopter, I've made some videos about it before. I just wanted to see if I could make an ornithopter, which is just a flying machine that flaps its wings like a bird. Out of PLA, because PLA is relatively heavy, and I wasn't even really using like a lightweight PLA. Just kind of interested in making an unconventional like flying machine where everyone was using like quadcopters just as a challenge, and I didn't succeed. But we still really care about that project and have like friends who want to see us like make a powered one and make like as big an ornithopter as we can. So probably going to be working on that when the weather gets a little nicer, so we can test it outside.
That is a crazy fun idea.
What
do you guys use for
awesome?
When you design everything? What are you using for your, like when you're making something you're going to 3D print? What software are you using to design everything?
Yeah, so we're basically majority FreeCAD all the way. Yeah, and we'll like draw things out on hand and whiteboards, and
the whiteboard didn't last long.
Yeah,
but we were really interested in a robot operating. I guess a robot framework. We were going to call it Does Robot because the LLC we have is Does Work, but we've just basically stayed on the open source path. So FreeCAD, ROS, these kind of tools are the ones we like to use, and even GIMP if we have to design something and images
like 2D or
for YouTube thumbnails. Yeah, we're really like using the open source packages.
Yeah. If it's free, we'll probably use it.
I was going to ask about that because FreeCAD is gaining ground. It's becoming an alternative because most of the CAD programs now have a subscription service, and people are saying, well, I don't really want to pay X amount of dollars per month to use the service when I can get FreeCAD free, basically. How have you found the learning curve for FreeCAD? Was it something that it felt natural to you, or did you have any issues when you first started?
No. So I did a video on FreeCAD, and it's FreeCAD in 5 minutes, which is an impossible video, just to click through. And really, and I'm more of a business analyst. So I use Python a lot at work. And I always tell people who use spreadsheet programs, maybe like Numbers or Excel, it's kind of something you figure out in a few days to really get working with. And then Python is a very friendly theme of this podcast. And Python is more like, it's kind of going to take a month or so before you really even get your feet wet, especially if you don't even know anything about object-oriented programming languages, maybe 2 months. And that's the same thing with FreeCAD, for sure. You just be very frustrated. You're like, why can't I spin this part? Or why can't I put a hole in this exact spot?
Yeah. Or like when you undo something, it breaks your whole object because using the conventions or the structure correctly. So I would definitely say FreeCAD is probably one of the largest learning curve tools in our stack of like how we build robots and design things. But it ultimately paid off for sure.
And if you do want to 3D print, you can commit to simple designs, and you can get a really good grasp of FreeCAD in a week or so if you really commit to it. And I definitely recommend it for people who want to get into CAD, just because I've been using it for maybe 5 or 6 months now. Maybe even less, maybe 3 months, and I'm fully confident I could design anything I could think of in my head with FreeCAD. And I absolutely wish I learned it sooner.
Wow. I tend to go between the two extremes. I'll go for Tinkercad for something quick and simple, just to do a quick 3D design. But then I'll also go to OpenSCAD or OpenSCAD, however you want to pronounce it, which is programmatically and parametrically controlled objects. And the two are complete opposites. One is so easy so you can chuck objects on a screen. The other one is you have to know exactly where you want this thing to be, how big it is. Is it translucent? Does it create a hole? That sort of thing. But FreeCAD's the one in the middle. I haven't tried in anger yet. I've dabbled and played around, but I've not got my head around how it works. And someone tried to explain it to me where it's a series of workbenches, and you sit at one workbench and perform one task. And then when you want to do the next task, you go to the next workbench, and that's designed for that task. But it's still not clicked in my head yet.
Yeah, it's surprisingly, it's really friendly for functional and I don't want to say basic, but for 3D printing, it's really great because there's no textures features in FreeCAD. I believe, and it is open source, so there are packages for everything. You can download almost anything on the internet. Like it doesn't have mechanical rigidness, like if you're trying to see if parts collide or whatever. Yeah. But there are packages you could download that do these things. But just vanilla, plain FreeCAD, it's just really friendly for people who like to 3D print because you just sketch. And really, the workbenches, you're in like 2 of them. I mean, your parts design and
maybe the parts workbench
and maybe nothing else, honestly. And the drawing one maybe.
Yeah, technically, when you're sketching, there's its own sketch workbench. So sometimes you'll go from workbench to workbench more seamlessly, which we would like to see. throughout all of it. I made a simple video a while back, forking one of the libraries and showing like how you could like contribute to open source, or like some of the bits of the structure of FreeCAD. But that's like an enormous learning curve. So you're not going to figure that out in a week necessarily.
No problem.
Yeah, that is really cool. Are you planning to share all these designs, open source them, or have you already done so?
Yeah, so we post everything that we can on GitHub with the MIT license. So, go nuts, use it, don't sue us. But yeah, I think that's kind of a theme until, we're hobbyist robotics right now. We like to build a commercial product one day, or, solve some kind of problem in the market. I kind of define a robot as like an autonomous way of replacing human labor. So right now, this guy's kind of just like a toy. And until he can actually provide and do something useful, that's when I personally see it becoming a robot. But yeah, and until then, everything's just on GitHub, open source. Happy to like answer any questions and like work on any projects that anyone else has.
Yeah, we answered code related questions, technical questions in the comments on our YouTube videos. So there's definitely been things that we've helped other people with. Also,
awesome.
you kind of mentioned we could talk a little bit about Tripedal's plan. We were even mentioning it this morning. We don't know what his future is, but we even see maybe like a year from now trying to do a Kickstarter or something. We don't want to fall into the classic YouTube maker content creation trap of where we're just trying to sell merch and have Google ads and everything. It's not really the goal, and I don't know how economical it is. We want to build products and advertise them. We draw a lot of inspiration from Boston Dynamics. I feel like this is kind of honestly the path they took, because they were just building awesome robots and just posting it on YouTube. And I don't know if there's a website yet where you can go and buy one of them, but it's just something we drew inspiration from. It's like, I want to make robots. We're just going to post it online, and if they get good enough to sell, then maybe one day we'll sell them.
Yeah,
Very cool.
That is really cool. We have a question.
Yeah. Have you investigated or built a hexapod robot? The motion of a six-legged spider walking is fun to watch. It's also very creepy because I've seen one in real life.
Oh, nice. Yeah, no, we've seen a lot of videos on them. They're great robots. What's funny enough is no, we've never built one. And honestly, I don't think we're going to. The Robot Combat League, it's funny. Someone posted online like, hey, I want to make robots, and like, what's the next step? I've built a few open source ones. It's like, yeah, just right into combat robots. Are you using them commercially? No. It's like, all right, we'll try the combat ones. So they've always had this issue where they can't really find a competitive walker because you just lose your legs. So it's just something. It was one of the earlier motivations where like, well, maybe tripedal would be a good one because you get less legs to lose,
and you get bonuses. Like your robot can be heavier if it's like a walker, or compared to one that uses wheels and those sorts of things. So maybe you'll see them in the ring one day.
Yeah. Something with hands. So the outer arms that you need to be able to do robot jujitsu is another. Just go in there and submit other robots by. This is kind of his waist head. Oh, that's another thing. So he's not like we don't like doing conventional things. If you want to grab Desk Buddy for a second.
Oh yeah, sure.
Just like even like the linear knee or a 3D printed ornithopter instead of like a wooden one or like little metal or sticks. We did silly things like another person we grab inspiration from is James Broughton. He's always doing something.
Oh, yeah, Robot X.
Yeah, something silly with the multi-dimensional wheels. We just want to try weird things. I don't want to just grab a project that exists out there and clone it. Although it would still be really fun and people should do it, and they should do it to our projects too. But I just like something in me is just I don't want to build something that's already been built. I want to try something even if it's worse, like the planetary gear that never worked out.
Yeah,
on this.
Even if it's worse. That's the spirit of Raspberry Pi. Do it because you can.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I feel about. That's what I feel like our whole motto should be at Tom's Hardware: do it because you can, not because you should. Because it's important to push the envelope. That's why what you guys are doing is so awesome. So Ash, you've seen some really interesting robot projects lately as well, right?
Yeah, there's a couple we've covered at Tom's Hardware, and I wanted to share them because you guys are seriously inspiring. And you actually mentioned something that is really similar to what I'm going to share with you. So let me get my screen set up. I'm going to switch to my browser. There is a 4-legged robot I wanted to share with you guys, and I think if it's not inspired by Boston Dynamics, I mean, I don't know what it is inspired by, but you were mentioning, I think Mark was mentioning that it makes a difference whenever the robot serves a purpose. It doesn't just walk around and look cool, although that is pretty fun. And I wanted to share this one because it uses AI to walk around a garden or farm and identify whether or not a plant is wilted and in need of water. And then it waters the plant. And I thought that was too cool not to share. It's not quite a tripedal robot. It's got 4 legs, but it's got a heck of a cool purpose. And I thought that was really neat. And you could read about that one on Tom's Hardware. That was just from last month. So this is fairly new. This isn't a very old project. Yeah. And on the subject of cool robots with legs, I wanted to share this one that has 2 legs because it's tricky to figure that kind of locomotion out. You guys have figured that out. And this one is just, I think it's neat looking. I like that you can see the wires. You mentioned your cable mess. That's a good thing in my opinion. This one was just for a few months ago, about 5 months ago, that we covered. Who put this one together? I thought I had it pulled up here. Dan Nicholson. Yeah, Dan Nicholson put this one together. He builds all kinds of cool stuff. So you can find him on YouTube and, of course, read about this on Tom's Hardware. But there was another tripedal robot, and I'm not trying to make competition for you guys. It's really cool. It's really cool. This one is inspired by Interstellar, and I had to share it with you guys.
Yeah.
They brought TARS to life. Have you guys seen this yet?
So actually, we haven't. Someone mentioned it, and if you see videos of TARS, I believe he has 4 legs. Actually, I did see this one. It was actually at a fair, I think last year, and it's super awesome. I love it. It does walk around. And competition, game on. Like, let's do it. This is in the age of like large language models and GPTs, like being really good at writing bad code quickly. Like, I think this is the age of like hacker robot making. So, but I think TARS has 4 legs. I saw a video of it. I never watched the movie, but I think it like the center ones that can actually split in half. So, but
the one they made,
but that one has 3 legs.
At least 3.
But that replica's 3. Yeah, and it's super awesome.
Yeah, and I like the 4-legged dog one. We like grew up on a small farm, so a lot of the inspiration of like having worked as software guys for the majority of like our adult life, like we grew up like fixing lawnmowers and just spending all day like using our bodies to like do stuff or like drive tractors or whatever. So I love this space of robotics where both of them combine, and it's such a great idea to have like a little friend go around and not just detect the plants that need watering, but then actually like go and do the watering part. That's awesome.
Then it just needs lasers.
Like
to...
the stats you could get. Oh, sorry.
Everything needs lasers.
Yeah.
Lasers and RGB. Done.
Yeah. Those were the cool robots I had to share.
Yeah, that's great. No, for sure. I think this is definitely going to be the age of like hacker robots, because a lot of I know Amazon and Tesla have like these humanoid ones, and I think there's a real uncanny valley experiment that'll be run. Like I have small children, and I wake up in the middle of the night plenty of times, and I saw a shadow, and I did the whole super defense karate shot, like what's going on, and it's my shadow, but I wasn't expecting another human. And it spooked me. So even if you have a robot in your kitchen doing dishes and whatever, I think the humanoid robots might actually face real challenges where this little nightmare machine, tripedal, kind of like a Roomba or like a little hockey puck going around vacuuming, it's a hockey puck. It's not a person. So I think the age of like really hacky robots might outpace these humanoid ones, and that's what I'm rooting for.
Yeah, I'm liking the companion robots that you see. So we've had Jovan Moss on the show, we've had Kev on the show, and I've seen others make them. And these are just almost like a parrot on your shoulder that just reacts and is animatronic. Fascinating, because you're creating a companion of sorts, and it's just how you program it to react with the world and interact with people is you're giving life to it in essence. And it's just amazing that you can do this with a 3D printer, some Raspberry Pi boards you've got kicking around your room, and a little bit of engineering knowledge, and which you can learn from YouTube videos.
For sure. And just like economically, I don't know how much things cost in different countries, but these are the economical blue servos and the cheap
you've all seen
polymer batteries. If you break this down, depending on if you get it for a good price, this could be just a $20 toy. It's very accessible to everyone to build these things. So even our ornithopter one the dream is to call it Hawk, and actually it's never going to land on your shoulder and fly around, but just having companion robots, or we should be living in the future where there's super awesome, hacky, weird robots walking around, and we're not there yet, but I feel like in the next couple of years we could be entering that age of robots.
Yeah, that is really cool. You guys mentioned AI. Do you use that? Do you use any AI to help you with your programming or with your design?
One thing for the walking sequence, I will say with this, we were going to use Gazebo, another open source library or package that's very friendly with ROS. We were going to try and simulate tripedal to build the walking patterns, but we work full time and takes so much time, and it's way too fun making them. So, what is AI? We're going to use machine learning to record walking sequences and progress of how far he walks, hook him up to a gantry. This is the future project, and then use machine learning to record the data of the different trials that he goes through, and then.
So if he does sequence A and falls over, then it's don't do sequence A, or sequence B and he works, then that's a good sequence. And we'll go and do, lots of simulations and lots of sequences, and use some kind of machine learning AI to potentially feed us what those are. And then for day to day, I definitely use ChatGPT for writing code, and I'm not really good at spelling, so I'll spell things horribly wrong, and then it'll just spell it right in its response. So it's
writing emails is done for.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I definitely see the whole AI thing. It's a future that's definitely gonna happen, and it's how you use it, I think, is still not totally determined. I know from writing software and writing code locally on my laptop, and then in production, you can try and have the same operating system and the same database, and try and make your local environment and production environment as similar as possible, but there are always differences. And so kind of similar to using AI, there's always going to be a difference from what the AI or the computer thinks the simulation or the sequence should be for your robot. So there's just nothing compared to you're kind of always working in production when you have robots. You need to see what it looks like in the real world with your human eyes.
Getting all the different weights of all the parts figured out in a physics engine is just impossible. And actually, to properly answer the hexapod question from earlier, tripedal's real mission is to be able to go up and down stairs economically. A lot of these bipedal humanoid walking robots, after actually making one and realizing how crazy top heavy things are, you can tell they're shuffling really slow because they're just going to fall over. That's why Boston Dynamics is obviously super awesome. But all those sequences and those really cool videos they make, from what I understand, are hard-coded, and who knows how many attempts it takes. So staircases. And for just AI, just to wrap it all up, building something that detects a staircase is actually really tricky. We will use depth cameras to figure out spacing, but AI is so powerful, you kind of could just take a picture of something, send it through to a GPT or a visual detection analyzer, and it just kind of oh, that's a staircase. Because staircases come in all different shapes and sizes, so it's just really helpful to use those little tools in robotics.
Years ago, back in 2014, I had the opportunity to go to Disneyland, and they had Asimo, if I'm pronouncing it right, ASIMO, and it was put together by Honda. And so it being as 10 years ago now. I feel old, but I got to see this robot for myself. He is bipedal. He kind of looks like a little astronaut. He's got this big backpack on. He probably looks different now after 10 years. But back then, 10 years ago, I got to see him with my own eyes on stage. Not just walk. He ran. You could actually see both feet off the ground at the same time. And they had a staircase. And the big feature of like what he was able to do was walk up the stairs. And I remember the music was climactic. Like, here he goes. He's going to walk up the stairs. And he's like, just slowly, da, da, as it just climbs like 4 steps, I think, turns around. I mean, that was really remarkable back then, and that was without all the tools that we have now. So I'd love to see where it's at now.
Yeah, it made its way onto South Park.
Really?
It was like an awesome episode.
No, staircases is definitely the tricky thing to tackle. So it's like just go for the moon. But I mean, that's basically what the staircase is for robots. If you could go up a staircase, it's like the moon landing for that robot.
Very true. Very true.
That's great. So, Les, what are you working on now?
At the moment, I am working on a review for Pimoroni's new NVMe base. So I'm going to switch to the overhead camera so you can see what I'm talking about. So we have, of course, Banana for scale. NVMe base, that's a pre-production model there. You can tell it's pre-production because it's got a spelling mistake on the board. This will be worth millions in years to come.
Raspberry.
But here it is actually. Raspberry, yeah. They're missing a B. But here it is on a Pi 5. So seriously, it's so easy to fit together this. So there it is on the base. It just screws in place, 4 screws, some standoffs, and in there is a 4 terabyte drive on a Pi 5, which is just a ludicrous amount of storage for this little thing. And the connection for power and data is, let's just focus this up so we can see. There we go. That's power and data. That's PCIe connection there. And Pimoroni very helpfully have labeled it so you know which end goes in which. So you still have access to your micro SD card slot there. If you put it in the wrong way around, it just doesn't work at all. But absolutely fantastic little board to give yourself lots of storage. So it fits 2230, 2260s, 2242s and 2280s. So you've got the full range there pretty much, apart from the really big drives. And it fits the footprint of the Pi underneath perfectly. So it's not a hat. This is, you could call it a hat plus board really, but it's more, it's an underslung board. So you still got access to your GPIO, you can still put your hats on, that sort of thing, and hack away, but you've got easy, cheap, plentiful storage to use, ready to go. So yeah, about $13 it is, and you can buy them now. So that review is going to be finished by a couple of days. So what's that, sorry?
They should call it pants instead of hat. Art attaches.
How's your Pi
there you
pants
go.
on? Yeah. There you go. Ash has called it there. All the money in copyright and intellectual property goes to Ash.
Yes, it should be. It should be pants. So, Les, what? How do you think there's going to be an official first-party one from Raspberry Pi, right? So how?
Yeah, there's going to be 2.
That. So why would you need that if you have this? Is there going to be any benefit?
Exactly. I've now reviewed 2 M.2 hat boards for the Pi. So we've got the Pineberry hat boards, the hat drives, and we've got NVMe base. Pretty much identical in performance. There's a few little things here and there where it's one's faster, one's slower, but obviously it's going to depend on your drive. It takes pretty much the same drives as well. So that there are compatibility issues with NVMe drives on these M.2 hat boards, unfortunately. That needs to be worked out in the future. I've got a few different types of boards that I've tried, and some didn't work, some did. So that's why I'm using the 4 terabyte one in here. That was unintentional. I was going to use a 120 gig one, but only the 4 terabyte was compatible. That's a Lexar NM790, remember rightly? So if you've got these, you've got an NVMe base. Do you need an M.2 hat? Well, probably not, no. But it's not out yet, so we don't know if there's going to be any improvements from Raspberry Pi. If they're going to have some secret little thing in that makes it go faster than what these are. You have to wait and see if it comes out. But I know there are going to be 2 M.2 boards coming out from Raspberry Pi. One's got a very similar form factor to the Hatch Drive, the top board from Pineberry Pi, and the other one is shaped like an L shape, if memory serves, and that's similar to the PoE Plus hats that's coming out soon as well for powering the Pi 5.
Wow, fantastic. Do you guys think you would have a need for NVMe drive in any of your robots, or is it way too much space?
Well, actually, so if we just go through the life cycles, baby tripedal could only use the smallest things possible, and it's probably a perfectly fine payload for this medium-sized tripedal. But we were talking about staircases earlier. There is a third version tripedal, which will ultimately be about 2.5, 3 feet tall. And absolutely, he'll get the full Raspberry Pi 5.
Nice.
So this is like 6 inches. This is like 12, 13 inches. And then there's going to be the 36 inch. And that will be,
Very cool.
yeah, standard Raspberry Pi 5. Unless they put the hardware of a Raspberry Pi 5 on the Zero. That would be super awesome. Yeah, yeah, that's definitely something tripedal version 3 will end up. Or a rover would definitely use something like that. So we're not offloading compute to desktop.
Yeah.
Very true.
Is it
You've
possible
got.
to see your tripedal? Go ahead, Les.
Sorry.
We
Have
see
you
it
thought
now?
about using alternatives like the other zero shape boards? Like Genia Tech's got one which has an RK3566 sock on it. Just a bit more power. I think it's 1.8 gig it runs at.
Okay, nice. I mean, just honestly, it's just the Orange Pi is the other alternative that we saw to the Raspberry Pi 1. But no, just because we're doing really simple compute. If it can do Ubuntu and ROS, and we got those pins, that's all we need for now. But we'll be doing big things in this coming year. Yeah, so we will definitely need stuff like that.
Awesome.
Wow.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, we're all really excited to see where this goes next. What is the best place where people can track what you're doing?
Yeah, I think on YouTube, just Hacker Twins would be the place to go.
Yep. Oh, yeah, YouTube's got the best traction. You called us in a very infant stage of our program. We've really only committed to this for maybe 3 or 4 months, and we started posting about 6 months ago. Just Hacker Twins on YouTube is fine.
You're doing great work.
It's really impressive what you guys are doing. I really admire what you guys are doing. So thank you so much for coming on our show and sharing it with our audience. We're really excited to see where this goes next, and hopefully we can have you on again sometime to see what your next great project is. So thank you guys so much, and we will everybody else, we will be back next week on the 23rd at our usual time of 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. UK time. And we'll see you everybody then. Bye.